Hello everyone, this is Larry Fleischman with Team Bjorkman eXp Realty, and I'm excited to share with you our first time home buyer step-by-step guide. Whether you're a first time home buyer, or you haven't purchased a house in a while, or maybe the last time you bought a house, it just wasn't a very smooth process. Well, you're in the right place. I'm going to break down the common steps from beginning to end and explain exactly how the home buying process works. So let's dig right in. My plan is to share with you the inside scoop on buying a home, and I'm going to break it down into 5 parts. Applying for a mortgage. Unless you have enough saved to pay cash for the property, you've got to have a partner in the process. You'll want the help of a realtor to make an offer that's engaging with the seller. The escrow period. This is when a whole bunch of things are going on and happening. We'll cover the closing, the period of time where you actually purchase the house, and then we're going to break down the mortgage payment. Mortgage payments obviously are going to be with you for a while, so I'm going to show you the 3 different parts of a mortgage payment. So why don't we just get started here? Looking back, to when I first bought my first house, I really had no clue about the process. In the end, everything turned out fine, but I really didn't have any idea about anything I'm going to talk about in this video. I was expecting my first child, and I knew it'd be a good idea to purchase a house. I went and did everything, but I really didn't understand things like I should have. A video like this would have really helped me out a great deal, and I hope you're going to be better off and more knowledgeable at the process than I was. So let's start from the beginning. And you might think the right way to start is going out and looking for houses. Maybe you're driving around your town looking for houses now, and okay, that's fine, but the real beginning of the process is knowing if you can buy a house and how much of a house you can afford. Maybe you've got the money to purchase the house, and if you do, then this part isn't as important for you, but for the majority of people, you don't have the money available to pay for the house, so you're going to need a financial partner, someone to invest in this house with you, and mortgage banks and brokers who provide home loans are the folks that are generally going to do that with you. So, step 1 in the process of buying a new home is applying for a mortgage. You're going to apply for a mortgage so that you have an idea of what you have available and what kind of house you can purchase. Generally, you'll get pre-approved to borrow, a certain amount of money. You call a lender, a bank, or a mortgage broker, and they're going to ask you for a bunch of information, and then they'll tell you what they feel you can borrow. An important point that I want to make here is this loan is not locked in. It's not finalized at this point. This is a pre-approval, so they're saying, hey, it looks to us like right now you could borrow this amount of money, but later on in the process, they're going to solidify that agreement. And if there are things that have changed in your job scenario or somewhere else, it is possible for this pre-approval not to go through. Now, I don't say that to make you worry. I say that so you understand the process and how it works. I recommend going to a local lender or broker because you're going to get a better sense of exactly what you can borrow. They're going to ask you for a few more details up front and spend a little bit more time with you. Now, I always advise folks to go to a local reputable lender, a place where you can sit down face-to-face with someone. But whether you sit down face-to-face or speak via the phone, either way works. Just know it's not 100% that you can absolutely borrow that money at that point. Pre-approval is, just that. It's a pre-approval in this moment. Now, it's also important to have a pre-approval when you're ready to make an offer on a home, because without the pre-approval, the majority of sellers will not take your offer seriously. So, get pre-approved. I also want to point out that the interest rate has quite a bit to do with your credit score. It affects your mortgage for sure, and it also affects your insurance. You want to have the best possible credit score you can when you go to buy a house, because your interest rate is going to reflect your credit score. All right, so once you're pre-approved, it's about time to go house shopping. But it's important to work with a real estate professional. A realtor has what's called a fiduciary responsibility. And this means they must protect and look out for their client's best interests. In addition, a realtor will preview homes on your behalf to save you from driving all over town and seeing homes that don't match what you're looking for. And they're also going to have inside knowledge in the community. And in many cases, they'll be aware of homes that are available which you won't see online. That's right, the perfect house could be out there, and you won't see it when you're browsing on the websites. All right, so you have a realtor, and now it's truly time to go house shopping. You have a sense of how much money you can borrow, what the banks are willing to invest in your new home as a mortgage, and you have a real sense of what you can purchase. So now your realtor takes you out and you go house shopping. All right, so you've gone house shopping, your realtor helped you find the home of your dreams, and you made an offer. Yes, you made an offer. Well, what does that mean? It means simply that you put in writing the amount of money you want to buy the house for. Now, the money is a big part of the offer, but you've also included any contingencies or additional expectations connected with your offer. So contingencies could be things that you want the seller to do. As an example, the roof is in bad shape, so Mr. and Ms. Seller, I'm offering you X number of dollars to buy the house, but in order for this to go through, you'll have to fix the roof before closing. Or it can be things that you want. So Mr. and Ms. Seller, I'm making this offer for X number of dollars, but I want all of the furniture, or I want the jacuzzi. So, these can be things that generally don't come with the house, but you've made them a contingency in your offer. So in order for this deal to go through, it will come with the house. So sometimes contingencies are what you want the seller to do before you purchase the house, like fixing up. Sometimes contingencies are things that you want from the seller that they wouldn't generally be included in the sale. And sometimes your realtor is going to ask for things to protect your best interests. I think the most common is time for home inspections. So the price you're going to pay and the contingencies are part of making the offer. So the offer's made and the seller decides to do one of two things. They may want to counter or they may want to accept your offer. I'm going to start off with the thing that happens most often, which is a counter offer. The seller will reply to your offer with a different price and contingencies. So they may come back and say they want to sell it for a lower price and not do some of the things you asked for in your offer. They may say they want to sell it for the same price, but they don't want to do whatever contingency. Or they may say, hey, give us your highest and best offer. All sorts of things can change in the counter, but basically they're taking those two things, the price and the contingencies, and coming back to you with a different version of what they're willing to do in the sale. And so that's a counter offer. Now, if they counter you, then you have the choice to counter or to accept as well. But let's talk about accepting. So at some point, one side or the other accepts, and that means to agree to sell or buy the house based on the last offer presented. So hopefully at some point, in the process, one side says to the other, okay, I accept your offer or I accept your counter, and we have a deal at that point. We're done with the make an offer step. We figured out what the sale will look like, what the price will be, what the contingencies will be, and we're ready to move on to the escrow period. The escrow period is a period of time between an offer being accepted and the closing. So the closing is the actual moment when you purchase the home from the seller and title changes to you, and we'll get to that. We want you to understand the escrow period. There are a lot of things that happen during the escrow period, so let's talk about them. So the first thing, you've got to secure the mortgage that you've got pre-approved for earlier. Most of the time there's a home inspection, so someone will come in and really dig into the house and take a deeper look at it, give it a check from top to bottom, and note any concerns. During escrow, you're also going to address the contingencies. You'll need to get insurance, and all of these are things that need to happen before the closing. And then obviously closing happens at the end when all of those things have happened throughout the escrow period. So let's get in a little more detail about each one. Securing the mortgage. We're going to go back to that mortgage company now that there's an offer that's been accepted and say, okay, you pre-approved us for X number of dollars, let's finalize these details. So they're going to want updated financial information. If you haven't already provided it, they're going to want W-2s, they're going to want work information, really all of the financial pieces of your world. Because the mortgage company is going to want to see them, so they want to make sure that you're going to be able to pay your mortgage payment. That's what they want to know. So everything gets figured out back and forth between you and the mortgage company until the mortgage is secured, until it's set and ready for closing. So you've got to have this financial piece in place. You've got to have that mortgage secured. Then you have the home inspection. You're going to have a certified inspector examine your home and describe all of the concerns that he or she notices. You made the offer on the house assuming that it was a solid house, and perhaps the seller said there was a problem with the roof, or there was something you saw. Sometimes when you're going through with your realtor is going to know that there's some type of issue, and they'll tell you about that, or if they observe anything, they'll let you know about that too. But oftentimes during the inspection, the inspector will find other kinds of issues. Maybe there's termites in the house, or all kinds of different things can come up during the home inspection. And another thing that I wanted to say about the home inspection is that at this point, oftentimes, even though you've made an offer and it's been accepted and everything's in place, many times, or some of the times, the home inspection can change the agreement between the seller and the buyer. Usually in the counteroffer, it'll say contingent on home inspector. And so once that home inspection goes through, if there's any issues, you can say, hey, look, Mr. Seller, you need to fix this or we're backing out of the deal. And so there are times where deals fall through at the home inspection point, but really we need to address the contingency because generally the purchase will be contingent on the inspection. So there may be additional negotiation if the inspector finds any issues. As I mentioned earlier, any other contingencies that were part of the offer need to be squared away at this point too. So if the owners need to fix the roof, that's part of the escrow process. All these things have to get done before closing. You need to know that the seller absolutely has done what they said they would do and have taken care of these items so that you can close on the house. Getting insurance. Insurance protects the home, and it protects not only your financial interest in the home, but it protects the mortgage company's financial interest in the home as well. So the most basic part of insurance is insuring the structure itself. If it were to burn down or get taken out by a tornado or whatever, suddenly that investment that you've made and that your mortgage company has made is no longer there. And insurance protects you in that situation. So the insurance will pay to rebuild the house and restore the investment that you and the mortgage company have. The mortgage company is going to insist on you having insurance before closing. So you're going to need to go out and hopefully, see your local independent insurance agent and engage them. Mr. Miss Agent, I'm buying a house. Here's the address. Here's the closing date. And they're going to get you a quote, which you can then provide to your lender. The lender wants to know the amount of money that you're going to be paying, or actually, the lender wants to know the amount of money that will be coming out of your escrow account, which we'll get to in a bit. They're going to figure it all out in the process, and then before closing, you'll have to actually secure that insurance and get a certificate of insurance to your lender so that closing can happen. So getting insurance is an incredibly important part of the escrow period. Insurance, is part of what we call your escrow or your impound account. And that's why the lender needs to know, the numbers, and they need to know two things really to close. Number one is to know that you have insurance so that their interest and their financial interest in your home is protected. And number two, they need to know how much that insurance is going to cost so they can calculate what your monthly mortgage payment will be because of your escrow account. So I know, I'm using a lot of bigger new words here, but I'll get to it in a minute. I talked to you about getting the policy in place and your mortgage company needing proof of insurance prior to closing. So now that's all taken care of. So we've secured the mortgage, we've gone through our inspection, we've taken care of all those things. We've got our insurance in place, we're ready to close on the house. Generally, closing will be done on a specific day. Oftentimes the buyer and the seller will go to the same place, usually the title company, which is in charge of making sure all of these things happen, and they'll sit down at a table. One side's going to buy the house, the other side will sell the house. Lots of signing of papers, putting things in place, and that's the closing. The date of closing is the day that you actually purchase the house and the seller no longer has any interest in it. So all the documents will be signed, ownership and title of the house will officially change hands to you. Congratulations, you've purchased a new home. So now there's many costs involved in what happens at closing. At closing, you're going to see many charges connected, and they vary with a lot of different expenses, but here are some of the main ones that you'll likely see at closing. The seller is going to pay for the realtor, and you'll both pay the title company. Essentially, you're going to pay everybody that has helped you with the buying and selling process. You're going to pay 1 year of your homeowner's insurance, so that'll be part of the closing costs generally, unless you paid for them ahead of time. And there's going to be many other fees that come up with closing. So there's a lot of different closing costs, and understanding these closing costs is really something you should be talking to your mortgage broker about. I want you to know about these closing costs so you can ask appropriate questions and make sure that you understand, because when you're at the closing, there are so many things going on. You're signing these papers and all this stuff is going on. Everybody around you understands this because they're doing it all the time, so they're flying through it. And if this is your first time, you're sitting at closing, you're trying to understand everything. You could end up leaving that room a little frustrated, feeling like you don't understand. So take a little bit of your mortgage broker's time before closing. Sit down with them, ask them what closing costs are going to be, and have them break them down for you. A qualified mortgage professional will do that for you, and it will help the closing cost part of your purchase go smoothly. So great! You have purchased a house. Congratulations, you get to move in, you get to be happy, you're a new homeowner, you've invested in something that will provide you tons of joy. Who knows what your plans are, growing a family, doing, whatever your future interests are in life, the house you just purchased is going to have a lot to do with those. It'll be the foundation of where those things happen. So buying a new house, being a new homeowner is super exciting and a smart investment. Enjoy it. You've done everything over the last several months, and now you're actually moving into your house. So be happy. I think it's also important to break down your mortgage payment. New homeowners often wonder when mortgage payments start because sometimes there is a considerable gap between closing and the due date of the first monthly payment. This happens because mortgages are paid in arrears, not in advance, which means payment is made at the end of a certain period, such as 1 month. But because interest is accrued on a mortgage balance each month, it can't be paid until after the fact. So your mortgage payment made on the first of the month will cover last month's interest along with taxes and insurance and principal, which I will explain in a moment. Your mortgage payment is generally the same amount of money that your mortgage broker told you from the beginning. There are a few things that you may not know, and I want to share these with you now. So there are parts of a mortgage payment that are important to understand. There's actually 3 parts, and those are the principal, the interest, an escrow or an impound account contribution that we spoke a little bit about, and we'll get into more detail shortly. So these are the 3 different parts of your mortgage payment. So first off is the principal, and this is what most people think of in their payment. It's the part of your monthly payment that goes towards paying down your debt. You borrowed $300,000, and every month you're paying a little bit to pay down that debt. And at 30 years or 15 years or whatever it is that you agree to, you'll have paid back all the money you borrowed. So that's principal. But in the beginning, that's not the main part of your payment. Now, it depends on how your loan is set up, but oftentimes at the beginning of the loan, the main portion of your payment is interest. This is the part of your monthly payment that goes towards paying the mortgage company for the privilege of borrowing their money. Banks don't lend the money for free. They make money every month. Oftentimes they front load the mortgage payment so that there's more interest being paid at the beginning of the loan than the end, and that's to set it, to their advantage so they can make their money whether you sell the house sooner or not. So you've got the principal, what you're paying down on the money you actually borrowed. And you got the interest, what you're paying the mortgage company for the privilege of borrowing their money. And then the third piece is the escrow account contribution. So there's a tiny, basically savings account that's part of your mortgage. This is called an impound or an escrow account. And every month you pay a small amount into this account, and your mortgage company keeps control of it. It usually covers 2 things, your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Mortgage companies set it up this way because they want to know 2 things. First, that you're paying your taxes, and second, that your homeowner's insurance is being paid so the home is protected in case something bad happens. They need to protect their investment, and this way they have some control over it. So you pay the mortgage company a little bit of money each month, and then when the property taxes need to be paid, the bill goes to the mortgage company, and your mortgage company pays those property taxes or homeowners insurance out of this escrow account. This way, the mortgage company is responsible for paying the property taxes and the homeowners insurance, and it gives them the assurance that they're actually being paid and actually being taken care of. Now, it's important to know that even if you set up a fixed rate mortgage, it does not mean your payment will never change. It does mean that nothing's going to change about the principal or the amount of money you borrowed. Nothing's going to change about the interest or about the money you're going to pay the mortgage company for the right to borrow that money. However, something can change in relation to the escrow account contribution. Sometimes people get a notification from the mortgage company telling them their mortgage payment is increasing, and they get upset. And I'll tell you, I was one of these people. When I bought my first home, I didn't understand that my mortgage payment changed and went up by a couple $100. I was thinking, ho, 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 wait a minute. I don't understand this. Why am I paying more money than we agreed to? I actually got frustrated not only with my mortgage company, but with the person who sold me the mortgage in the first place. What I didn't realize was simply that my homeowner's insurance and my property tax had gone up, so the escrow account contribution had changed, and it didn't cover what it needed to. So if your mortgage payment does change, don't freak out. You know, it probably has something to do with your taxes or your insurance. Okay, so let's talk about a rookie mistake. Hopefully your mortgage broker will be telling you not to do this, but I'm going to tell you not to do this right here as well. Do not apply for any other loan during the escrow period. During your escrow period, as I said earlier, your mortgage is still changeable. If something changes with your credit, that can change your ability to borrow money. So until the closing date, mortgage companies don't actually totally solidify the loan until a day or two or even the day of closing. So you don't want to apply for any other loan during the escrow period without speaking with your mortgage broker. If your mortgage broker tells you it's okay, then fine, you can go ahead and buy that furniture or whatever, but that's different. I want to emphasize, do not go and apply for any other loan unless you've spoken with your mortgage broker. And they've specifically said that it's not going to have a negative effect. Oftentimes it will, so this is a rookie mistake to apply for any other loan during the escrow period. All right, what did we learn? Well, we have applied for a mortgage. We've navigated different parts of the escrow period, and once we closed and bought the house, we broke down your monthly payment. So now you understand how these things work. There are a lot of pieces, but you have a better level of